All right. Welcome everyone to this LinkedIn Live webinar, once more hosted by Plauti. The topic of today is the challenges of big data. My name's Nico. I'm an account executive here at Plauti, working here for a couple of years now. And I think I can consider myself a data expert by now. As you probably all know, at Plauti, we focus on data management solutions. Think of deduplication, validation, standardization of data, right? Anything revolving with data, we're probably there working with it. Great. Good to be here. Good to be back with all of you. It's been a while since I did my last live webinar, so it's good to be back. Hope everyone's excited as I am for the topic of today. A little bit of the structure for today. We'll be working on challenges of big data. We're going to see some of the challenges, some opportunities that may come from them. Then we're going to review some of the popular apps in the App Exchange for data management, and then we'll introduce one of our solutions that we've created here at Plauti. Now, we're Plauti, as you probably know, we're based in the Netherlands. So if there's any questions, please don't throw them in. The national football team or soccer for everyone in the US is playing at 6. That's an hour from now. So hopefully we're all on time there so we can cheer on the Orange Lions. Now I'm just joking. If there's any questions, make sure to drop them in the chat. We'll have a time later at the end to review those questions. We'll try to answer them instantly. If we need more time or it's a more advanced, complex situation, we'll always send an email afterwards, or you can contact us with our support channel to help in any way. Now, thanks for that introduction. We'll start now off. I'll bring the PowerPoint up so we can work on it. As I mentioned, the topic of today is the challenge of big data, and let's get into it. All right, so thanks everyone for being here. As I mentioned, we'll start with the challenges of big data, right? I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the data, right? We work on it daily, right? We work on every day on data. Could it be small databases, large databases, anything? We all revolve around data. And if you work on large data volumes, large data sets, you know that there's a lot of challenges that come with it, right? So you can maybe even make a relationship saying, one second, my slide is not working. There we go. You can even say that the larger database, right, usually the more complex it is, right? Bigger complexity, it's harder to manage. So that's one of the challenges there. Furthermore, as we mentioned, being complex to manage, it's an important factor because every day we rely more on data, right? We make decisions based on the data, and we need the data to be reliable in order to make good decisions. All of our business interactions, emails, records, phone numbers, usually are digitally recorded, right? You have a CRM system to store everything, and those digital records need to be managed to ensure that it doesn't become a tangled web of data that's impossible to decipher or to draw conclusions from. So one of the challenges there. Similarly, here we have, right, some side challenges, you could say, storage, data security, quality, integrations, data analysis, right? All those topics revolve around data. So we'll be here to focus on these challenges in general. Now, to start, we've highlighted different challenges. So we'll start then firstly with the performance issues, right? I'm sure a lot of you know about the large data volume challenges, how they will mess around with your org and how performance issues could be a challenge. Imagine you have a messy database full of data that perhaps you don't need. Well, if you're going to do simple tasks such as searching for something or run a report, well, it's probably going to take a lot of loading time because of the resources, the performance issues you have. And that's annoying, right? That's time you're wasting a little bit on reports, on searches. So definitely one of the challenges. Similarly, data inconsistencies. So think if you are saving, storing addresses, phone number, duplicate records, right? If you don't have any lack of validation of data, it's all going to be inconsistent. And well, you tell me, if your data is inconsistent, you then run a report on that data. How reliable is that data going to be? Is it something you can actually act upon, or are the conclusions from that messy data also messy conclusions? Furthermore, as we mentioned at the beginning, the larger the database becomes, usually it has a bigger effort into keeping it clean, or it's harder to have a good track. So an example there, think of duplicates, right? If you have a couple hundred records, it might be easy to spot duplicates from a list view or in general for any search. But if you're working with thousands or millions of records, well, trust me and trust everyone who's done it, it's gonna be very difficult to find duplicates, right? So that's another complexity on the level of data that you might have. And lastly, a topic that is a lot of the time overlooked, but we consider very important, data security, data compliance, right? In today's world, these are trending topics everywhere. And with large data sets, it's very sensitive to see who has access to this data, who is authorized, who is unauthorized. It's critical to make sure everything is set up correctly to avoid any legal or reputational damage later, right? But as we all know in life, right, when there's challenges, there's probably also opportunities. So let's look a little bit at the bright side of this now. We're going to focus on some opportunities. And the first one that comes to mind or here, it's the enhanced decision making, right? As we briefly discussed at the beginning, if your data is inaccurate, if you have bad reports, bad data. If you have good reports, good trend, good analysis of data, then you probably have better reporting. You can make better decisions, right? Think of valuable insights that you might get, trends, customer preferences, products, trends, performances, market dynamics, right? All of that, you can draw conclusions from your data. And with these insights, you can probably make better decisions, more informed strategic decisions. Similar to the previous topic, you can also have a better customer experience, right? If you're consolidating the data from different entry methods or different touch points, you have a preferred or probably a more personalized interaction. You can have tailored recommendations. You can anticipate situations better from your customer needs, and that will slowly lead into a better customer experience, better customer satisfaction, and most importantly, a better customer retention, right? Lastly, another thing to take into mind is the scalability. I'm sure a lot of you are using Salesforce as the CRM platform, right? So a platform like Salesforce really allows you to grow, and in that sense, also grow your database to make sure that you can still use it, right? In the sense of it will be able to handle data volumes and without sacrificing much of its performance. Now, we've discovered some of the challenges, some of the opportunities. Let's think of some ideas on how we can achieve this in Salesforce. Right. There are a lot of tools in the Salesforce environment that are free that you can use to start up. So that's a great news, right? You don't need to spend a lot of money to find a solution to help you with some of your needs. A lot of them are free. So what we'll do now is we'll go through a couple of the common ones, of ones we see a lot. And we're going to see some of their features, some of their limitations, and walk through them, of course. If there's any questions, feel free to drop in the chat and we can address them later. To start off, I'd say one of the popular ones, I'm pretty sure a lot of you know them, Salesforce Data Loader, right? For those of you who don't know, haven't heard of it, it's basically a centralized hub for the execution of bulk actions, right? Bulk data actions. So it provides a platform to handle this task, and it helps you with the large data volumes to be a bit more efficient, and it simplifies the processes of processing the data management. Some of the key features, well, as the name says, bulk operations, right? It allows you to work on significantly large data volumes with single operations, so pretty useful. Support of multiple objects, once again, pretty straightforward. Keyword is versatility. You can work on standard objects, custom objects, any object you have, you can run with Salesforce Data Loader. So that's great. Another topic that it's very important when you're looking for a solution and perhaps not thoroughly thought a lot of the times is their error handling, right? if you're doing changes, if you're doing something, what happens if there's an error, right? What are you going to do? How are you going to solve it, right? And this is definitely a key feature of Data Loader. It has a mechanism to show you to basically troubleshoot any data related issues. So it's very useful later to have a detailed log of the error, or perhaps a feedback area, so that you can then empower the user or the admin or whoever is using the solution to pinpoint the error, and more importantly, to rectify it, right? So definitely useful to have error handling capabilities. And the last one is scheduling. In other words, automation. It allows you to schedule operations at a certain time through command functionalities, right? So you're a bit flexible there to make sure that it runs when you need to. So a lot of the features there are very important ones. Not sure if everyone was familiar with them, if they're new, but these are some of the ones we take into consideration when evaluating solutions. And of course, there's always some limitations. For Data Loader, we've highlighted 3. One of them being the complexity. It's not the most simple to use. Well, it requires a certain level of technical proficiency. So users need to have a little bit of a basic understanding of Salesforce and the data management concepts to make sure to configure it to the needs of the end users of the business. Performance, while working with large data volumes, right? Sometimes they're very resource intensive, so it can potentially strain a lot of your system resources and impacts your overall performance. So yeah, users need to be aware of these system constraints and try to optimize them based on the operations. And then lastly, the user interface. Compared to some other solutions, other Salesforce tools perhaps are perceived less intrusive than Salesforce Data Loader, right? So definitely a bit of a hit and miss. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't. But definitely the user interface is not as user-friendly as some other solutions. That a bit of Salesforce Data Loader, I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with this one. So yeah, some of the key features there. The bulk operations is definitely the main key factor of it, and some of the limitations, as you can see on screen. The second solution we'd like to discuss is the mass update and delete. So these functionalities are within Salesforce, right? It allows users, as the name says, to do updates across multiple records directly from a list view, or delete them right from a list view. So it eliminates that process of exporting and importing data. So you have a quick resolution to small changes that you want to have in a lot of records. Some of the key features then, as the name says, or as the first topic says, direct list view actions. You have a list view, you select the records, you can make the changes, you can make the mass update, the last delete, right? So it's very simple. It's as simple as it gets, as it says, simplicity. Very straightforward. It's very simple to use. No knowledge needed. Select the records, mass update. Simple. There's no steep learning curves, no complex scenarios. So very straightforward. But that can also be seen a little bit of a limitation. One of them is the limited scale. Cannot process super large data volumes, depending on your data volume. I think on list view is 200 records. So it's quite limited. So you can have some issues there. Manual selection, right? You still have to either use the list view filterings, which are not that advanced, to select the records, and then manually click through them to make sure you have the ones you want to process. There's some error there, usually a human error, right? Maybe you skipped one, maybe you missed one, so on, right? So that's some of the limitations there. And functionality constraints, right? It's a tool that can do mass updates, but because it's so simple, at the same time, it cannot do complex situations. So you might see some constraints on the records that you want to update or delete. If you're looking for a more complex logic or advanced data manipulation, you might run into these constraints pretty quickly. But nonetheless, a great solution, simple to use, very straightforward for the smaller, simple use cases, is definitely one of the most popular ones that you can use. And the fact that it works from list views, that's just amazing, right? It's very simple. The next one we have is bulk API. This one provides an interface basically to load large volumes of data to your Salesforce instance, and then you can perform queries on that. So some of the key features, I'm sure everyone with Salesforce knows the two different processing, asynchronous and synchronous. With the bulk API, you can use asynchronous processing, so it processes the data in batches, and asynchronously to ensure that it has the best performance, basically. While at the same time, it will minimize the impact of the system resources. So definitely a plus and a plus. It's a good feature. High volume ready, right? You can work with millions of records in a single operation, so that's covered. And efficiency, right? Compared to other synchronous APIs, the bulk API is engineered for speed, for efficiency, to work to execute bulk operations. So that's also really efficient, really great. Limitations, of course, as we mentioned, complex setup. You probably need some comprehensive of APIs, usage, and configurations to be able to set it up. And you will need a certain level of basically of technical knowledge to configure to utilize it. Error handling, well, it has some capabilities. It still has some challenges resolving errors, particularly if you work on a large scale of data volume, can get a little bit tricky on the error handling. Development skills required, right? Similar to the complex setup. We see that a lot of the time to execute actions, it typically involves certain level of developer knowledge and to implement the solutions to integrate with existing API workflows. But nonetheless, a very powerful solution. It manages large data sets within Salesforce, and with asynchronous processing, you can then perform everything, and it's very scalable in that sense. As you mentioned, it can process up to millions of records in a single operation, so it's ready for large data volumes. Because of the efficiency and the high volume, I would even say it's one of the most popular apps in the environment. Because it's ready for organizations. It's free. It has a lot of great capabilities. Just be aware if you're not using it yet, or if you are, you probably know what I mean. It's complex to set up. Error handling is a bit challenging, and if you don't have the knowledge, the developer knowledge, it could get very tricky very quickly. Now, moving to the next one, Salesforce Scheduler. If you're not familiar, then I'm still pretty sure the name says what it does. You're able to schedule tasks, right? So with this tool, if you have this tool in your org, you can automate a lot of the actions to run at specific times, or for example, say you want to run certain tasks during off hours, or when employees are not working, when they're at home, just to help with the performance, right? Some of the key features for it: automation, as we mentioned, right? If you can schedule those repetitive tasks, it reduces the manual effort of creating the task. It reduces the risk of human error while creating the task. And similarly, right, if they're scheduled out, then whoever is setting them up can use that time to do some other tasks, which are perhaps more productive and bring better investment or better return in the investment. Flexibility. There's a lot of scheduling frequencies and time that you can use. You have to be a little bit aware of how the scheduling of Salesforce works, but it's definitely allows for a lot of automations tailored to the processes you might need in the business. So think of maybe you want to run tasks daily, weekly, monthly. You can customize the scheduling to align to your workflow needs. And lastly, integration. As I mentioned, it's within Salesforce. It helps with other third-party tools too, not only Salesforce features. So it's very well integrated. It enables comprehensive data management capabilities to do your tasks, to schedule them. And because it's automated, right, it saves a lot of the time and makes it seem seamlessly with Salesforce across all the different various platforms that you might work on. Regarding limitations, complex configuration, right? So at the beginning, with flexibility, I mentioned there's a lot of flexibility, but you have to be aware of how this flexibility are. You need to know the scheduling options of Salesforce itself. Those capabilities are definitely a must-have in order to set it up correctly as you want. And if you don't have that know-how of how the scheduling works, it's going to be tricky. But nonetheless, you'll be able to figure it out, I'm sure. It has limited functionalities. While is useful for automation and routine tasks, it may not cover all the needs you have, right? Depends. You have a very complex use case, certain advanced scenarios or workflows, they might need more advanced scheduling, or may perhaps even a third party to schedule them correctly. So be aware of that too as a limitation. Lastly, monitoring and maintenance. Users need to have, need to actively monitor it to make sure the schedule processes are working. So to address any errors that could have happened, fine tune if everything went wrong, for example. Make sure that the configuration is always up to date and optimized to be reliable in that sense. Now, I think this was the last one of the apps we're reviewing. So we reviewed 4 different ones: Bulk API, Salesforce Data Loader, Mass Updates, and the Salesforce Scheduler. These are very popular solutions that we've seen. We went through the features, limitations, right? Feel free to test them out. They're all free in the App Exchange, so you can use them in your environments. Now, before we move to the next topic, I want to just a little bit of a summary of some of the key features and limitations that we've seen. So basically, what we've been talking about, performance issues, right? Large data volumes. If you do a lot of bulk operations, you may suffer from sluggish performance. It takes a lot of resources, especially during peak times or a lot of usage is there. It may impact your overall performance. So be aware of that. Complex setup, right? A lot of the tools need some technical background, some expertise for the configuration, for the operations, which could result in a steep learning curve for some people. So for those a bit less techy, then it might be challenging. Some of them have limited scalability, as we mentioned, them as update and delete from Salesforce. Some are ready, like Data Loader, Bulk API. They can manage a lot of large data volumes. Another one similar to those, but with a little bit more restrictions, let's say, would be the Data Import Wizard, right? So be aware of some are ready for large volumes, some are not. Make sure you have a right balance there. Error handling challenges, right? Not every solution has a way to basically to cover these errors. Maybe they have no log of what has been happening, no feedback, no error resolution capabilities. Well, if something happens, how are you going to resolve it, right? You want to know what happened, what caused the error, so you can resolve it later. So definitely one thing to consider there. And then functionality constraints, right? It's a lot of them have certain constraints that you cannot fully cover with the free versions. So a lot of times you might need another third-party solution. So make sure to have that in mind, right? If you have very complex data issues, you might need more complex capabilities that you might not have with these solutions. But as you know, here at Plauti, we have a lot of data solutions. The one we're presenting today is Data Action Platform, DAP, DAP, you name it as you want. We've heard it being called the Swiss Army knife for data management. So it's definitely a powerful tool to help with your data management actions, right? It's primarily focused on mass update and delete, but does have a lot of other functionalities. So we'll cover a little bit about the key components of it. We'll cover about some of the actions that it does, some of the audits that it takes, and then we'll have a demo for it. Now, if we look at the first part, what is Plauti Data Action Platform, right? Seamless data transformation. It simplifies large-scale data handling to one click. So you can do mass update, you can do mass leads. We have a lot of different actions that you can run from different execution methods. So it's very friendly with data. It's tailored flexibility, right? It integrates with Salesforce seamlessly, so it looks like a Salesforce platform, but, and very important, but it overcomes a lot of the limitations and constraints that you have with Salesforce. So a lot more advanced. It can be very tailored to your needs. So definitely a plus there. Administrative empowerment. It enables access control, right? At the beginning of the webinar, we discussed the importance of security and control of your data. This is definitely where it comes in. You have the permissions. Well, we work on permission sets, role-based, to make sure that only authorized people have the availability to run certain actions or on certain records. So very flexible on knowing who can do what within the solution. Easy configuration, no coding required. It's very simple user interface. It even comes with an onboarding session to let you know, okay, what are the actions, what can you do, how can you use them. We'll cover a bit of the demos there. And then also some AI integration, right? There's a big hype at the moment. We can use DAP to use some AI features. We can, we have some nice tricks implementing powerful functions like the ChatGPT. For some examples, we'll cover more of these examples later in a bit, but we've come with very, very nice, very attracting examples that a lot of our customers are using. So we'll cover them in a bit. Now, if we go step by step, now we'll focus a little bit more on the features. The first one, as we mentioned, mass actions, update and delete. We have a lot more actions, but these are the ones we're focusing based on the challenges with big data we covered. As efficient bulk operations, right? You can perform bulk and update deletions very easily. We'll cover that in the demo. You'll see how simple it is to add filters, to add logics, to make sure it, filters down the data you need. It's simple to execute the changes, so it all works perfectly. Advanced filtering, you get more control of the data you want to run from the different execution methods, so you're ready to go. And as I just briefly said, conditional logic, it supports updates in logic, enabling more sophisticated data manipulation. We have the auction launcher. So basically here it's where you decide to use the actions. It can be worked upon from different methods. List view integration, similar to the mass update from Salesforce. You can select the records from a list view and trigger the action launcher, select the action, run it. You can work from an action grid, right? So a powerful action grid interface that facilitates the operations on the records that you have already selected. And the last one is jobs. So what we call all these operations a job. You can then filter down before you've done the job to make sure it executes all the tasks optimally with minimal intervention or minimal manual intervention on selecting what records you want to process. As for error handling or just having a general knowledge of what's happened, we have an audit log. So it tracks not only the job itself, but per record, not the action itself, but the record. See what are the changes that happens, right? Which brings a lot of transparency. It gives you a detailed history of the action taken, and it includes the information regarding who took the action, when they took it, what records were affected, right? So you have a very transparent way of seeing everything that's been happening. That helps with compliance, right? Maintains a clean and comprehensive record of the data changes to make sure that you follow any compliance rules that you may have or any requirements. Error tracking, once again, if you run a job, if there's an error for XYZ reason, it will let you know what the reason was, so you can then later fix that issue. Furthermore, on security, user roles, permissions, you can base them on a role. So you have specific permissions for a role-based access, basically, to make sure certain people can do certain actions that they might need in their daily, but they cannot do other actions that they won't need. Say, for example, end users cannot mass delete records while an admin can do, and so on, right? So you are very flexible with all the processing, all the permissions, and so on. And it can then be aligned to match, as I mentioned. End users do X, admins do Y. It aligns your basis needs to make sure everyone has the capabilities they need. Lastly, the ChatGPT, that one, it's one of our Additions to it, I think the best way to mention or to explain a little bit how it does is that it can incorporate, in this case, ChatGPT to your workflows. Some of the cases that we've worked with some of customers are lead qualification, right? So you see the records, you use ChatGPT to evaluate the records, and it gives you, okay, a rating, for example, to help your sales team prioritize high potential leads, right? Which one need more attention, and so on, to make sure that they can focus on those leads first. Similar, but then instead of the leads, on the account health score, which accounts, right? ChatGPT will make sure that analyze the health score of these accounts and let you know, okay, based on the activity, based on the open cases, based on the relationship you've had with the account, which accounts need more priority or needs your efforts at the moment, and so on. Another example, case assignment. Actually, a lot with cases. Perhaps a case comes in with analyzing the content of the case, the subject of the case, and the artificial intelligence. You can guide it to the correct or route it to the correct department. For example, you get a case from finance, it goes to finance. Get it from support, it goes to support. That it can all be done with AI. And similarly, there you can also summarize the cases, right? With AI, gives you a concise summary of the case, so you don't have to read it full, but you get the bullet points, for example, of what it is. I think the beauty of DApp and ChatGPT integration is that you can set up the prompts yourself, so you can make sure that it covers the needs you have, right? So you can, if you want to use ChatGPT on a certain case, there's probably a way to do it. So let's say departments, right? You have a lot of job titles that have different but similar job titles. You can use ChatGPT on a prompt saying, to what department does this job title belong? That's basically department segmentation, and it gives you an answer. Okay, these titles belong to the marketing department. Bit of segmentation there helps you. And then another case could be the opportunities, similar to the lead qualification. Opportunity win probability, right? You can set up what are the criterias for the ranking on the win probability. You can set it up. Could be activity, deal size, if there's competition involved, anything there. ChatGPT can help you with evaluating, making sure it's a win probability there. I think that's I get very excited when I talk about the ChatGPT. I'm sorry about that. I think for some advanced or extra features of DAP based on the use cases we've covered today, when we do a job, we can see a preview of changes. So we see before we actually do the change how it will look. So it's pretty useful. Custom workflows, I think, is also a pretty important feature. You can create your custom workflows for the data operations, so you can have a more tailored process to meet your business needs, right? I think that covers, still not in a nutshell, right? Because I covered quite a lot of time there. What DAP can do, there's a lot more that it can do, but I think for the purpose of the webinar today, these are one of the key components, key features of it. I think for now, the best is to let it show you in action. So what we'll do is we'll do a live demo of some of the features. I'll explain what are the use cases that we'll do within the demo. So let's get into that. Let me just get my screens ready here. Let's share screen. All right, there we go. I think you can see my screen now, right? My setup is down here, so I'll be looking a little bit down. Sorry about not looking into the camera, but we can work from there. All right, so we'll start by moving into the app launcher. Here we have our solutions. And as you mentioned, DAP, DAP, Data Action Platform. So we're going to open it. As you can see, it looks exactly like Salesforce. What we will be doing is focusing on the DAP jobs, right? So we'll open that. Actually, first, let me show you my reports. So I did a custom report on the lost opportunities. The first use case we will do is from a report, which, as you all probably know, a report has a lot of more filtering functionalities than a list view. We'll run a mass update and assigning ownership of these lost opportunities, right? What we want to do in this, it takes a lot of time to do it with the Salesforce in a manual way or mass update with, for example, limited number of records. Here you can see I have 420 already. With the Salesforce limitation, I think you can only do 200 at a time. So it's already doubled. You can do a lot more. But what we'll do is quickly, seamlessly update the opportunity owners and the stage to make sure that our team focused on revival of closed loss ops can focus on them straight away. So what we'll do is I'll go to the DAP job. We're going to start a new DAP job. We name it as we want. So in this case, lost ops revival distribution. Oh, there. We select an object. We can work on an object you have ready on integration with our other solutions, drop results from there. In this case, just from a report. So we're going to focus on that lost opportunities report. There we go. It's running the report to make sure you have it up to date. So you give a couple seconds, the report will run, we'll have the details, and we can move forward from there. There we go. So we select the opportunities right here. We have the preview of record selection. Actually, let me open it just to show you later how it works. Let's see. 1 second. I'm not sure if you can see my screen at the. All right. Let me see then. If we go here, we're gonna start next. This is the action launcher. We're mentioning this. We're starting it from a job point of view. We have the different actions. These are the actions I have access to. So we have more, but these actions you can limit it to make sure not everyone has access to all of them. In my case, we'll first do an assign ownership of the records, right? So I'm going to do a split even. We can have a custom if you want to tailor the percentages, everyone can do. In my case, I have my amazing revival team. So I have Captain America here. I have Iron Man. And the last one, the Incredible Hulk. So as you can see, I'm going to assign the ownership of my lost ops to these people, to these users. We get a little bit of a summary of what's happening. So the percentage, the records that everyone's going to get. We click on start, and now the job is running. As you can see here, created is running in a couple of seconds. And just to show you, I'll go to the report, open the report, and you can see that it's already running some of the changes right here on the opportunity owner. We can see some already changing. So as this report is running already, it's creating the changes. So we go back to the job overview. We see it there in percentage. The other update we want to do is on the stage opportunity, right? So once again, lost up revival stage. Sorry there. Once again, right, we select the report, lost opportunities. Running again the report just to double check the data is there correct. So yeah, as you can see, very simple. As you can see on the background, the previous job is already completed, updated those 420 records in what was that, a couple of seconds. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple to use. Once again, preview opens the report itself. We already know it, so we'll just skip that part. The actions, in this case, let me do a mass update. So what we'll be doing now is selecting the field we want to change, so the stage. And I'm currently on close lost. I have here a field called close lost on the revival campaign. So I'm going to set that just to make sure my reporting later is correct. I click on start. Once again, the report is running. It's created, it's running. If we go back to the report itself, lost opportunities, we can see that the changes are there already. And actually, they're all done apparently. So what did that take? Less than 5 seconds. And we changed it 420 records, right? So very simple, very straightforward, very clean to use. That was a bit of the mass update. The other feature I want to show you with a little bit of the filtering, of the scheduling, is a mass deletion. So what we'll do is a new job. In this case, we'll do a mass deletion of tasks. right? We've seen that, or well, we come across a lot of times that all tasks take a lot of storage time. They're very difficult to delete or to find some automations to delete them. So what we're doing now is we're going to schedule a job to run a certain period to basically remove the hassle of having to run the job every time or that deletions. And with the scheduling, it will work well. Whenever you set it up, it saves a lot of storage time, which, as you all probably know, with Salesforce storage is very expensive. So it really alleviates a lot of the pain there. We select the object. So we're going to work on the task. So then we're going to add a filter. We're going to make sure we only focus on the status, those tasks that are completed. And then the other filter we're going to use is on the created date, right? We only want to delete records that are older than 6 months. So let's see, the operator, we're going to use a date literal. So we're going to use earlier than, and then let's do a last n months, where n is going to be 6, right? So then we have, once again, you can add more filters, a filter logic. If you want to do conditionals, in this case, I want them both. The preview record selection, once again, if you want to see what records you are working on. In this case, I'll just do the frequency, daily, weekly, monthly. You're very flexible on selecting the frequency you want to run this job, right? It will work on a weekly. You select the day, you select the time you want to work on. So let's say every Monday, as the week starts, I wanted to delete all the tasks from 6 months or prior. But perhaps you want to do it on a monthly basis. You want to do it on the 5th of every month at a certain time. There you go, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You select next. It gives you the options you want to use. So in this case, as we mentioned, the mass delete. Click on next. We have the option to recycle bin. In this case, these are all records. So let me just skip the recycle bin. So I'm confident in that. I click on next, and now we can just schedule it. And just like that, we have a different tab, a different page for the scheduled jobs. Here is running. So it's going to delete the records every 5th of the month at, you cannot see there, at midnight, to make sure that every record or every task older than 6 months is and completed, it's automatically deleted. Useful sometimes is to go to the jobs options and run it once now. Then it's running it now. As you can see now, we're at the standard job overview, and it's completed. So it just deleted all those tasks that were older than 6 months. So pretty simple to schedule, pretty simple to run them now. As you can see, it's very simple to configure, but at the same time, very advanced in the sense that you can add filterings, you can work from reports, you can run from a list view, from jobs, scheduled or not. It's very flexible to meet your needs. I think that covers the main use case I've covered for this mass update and mass deletion, since are two of the big features when you're working with a large data volume. So now let me go back to my PowerPoint so we can wrap things up, and we can all go cheer for the Orange Lions, for the national team. All right. Let me present again. There we go. So that was a bit of DAP, right? As we mentioned, a lot of the functionalities we cover, the mass actions, update, deletes, action launcher, right? It has an audit log based on the actions, based on the records, so you keep track of everything. You can set permissions based on roles, permissions, permission sets from Salesforce, so you're all set there. Now we move to the Q&A. I don't know if there's any questions in the audience or anything that came up here to cover them. There we go. The audit log is super helpful, but uses a lot of storage data. Any advice on keeping that in check? Good question. It's optional. If you wanna store the audit log, basically, you can also automate deletions of some of it. As you mentioned, you can schedule it. So basically, we have two audit logs, one for the job itself, which doesn't take too much storage, one for the for the actions itself, and one for the records. The one for the records, depending on the large data volume, might take a lot more storage, but you can automate on deletions of the records, and we have some, I believe, some built-in functionalities to make that work smoothly. Robert Norris, I'll make sure to write your name down, and I'll send you a bit of a video on how that works, so you have a clear view on that. Thanks, Robert. I hope that clears it out too. All right. During the webinar, you mentioned some of the challenges associated with big data. Could you elaborate on how Salesforce data load number can be leveraged to address these challenges effectively, especially in terms of data processing and integration? Good question. So a lot of what we mentioned, a lot of what we covered was mass updates. So that's a lot what data loader and bulk APIs can do, right? There's a difference within importing, inserting data. You can make a lot of changes there to change the data within Salesforce by exporting and import reports. The only challenge there is it can get very messy. You work outside of data. You have to export and import of data. So it can be very challenging on processing data. Hope that helps. With Data X platform, you do everything within the platform, so that it's a lot more useful, more user friendly, as you can see from the demo, short demo we had. Let's see if there's any other questions. I don't see anything, so that's great. Well, I think then we're coming to an end. Thanks everyone for joining. My name's, as I mentioned, was Nico. I work here at Plauti. Plauti, we focus on data management solution, right? From mass actions, as we covered today, to anything else. If you're interested in a bit more tailored use case, a bit more tailored demo of your use cases, feel free to let us know. You can contact us at our website. We'll have a live chat there. It's actually a real person, so don't get surprised if you get a message. It's not bots. So we can talk, we have a chat there, talk about your use case and prepare a demo for you. If you're already using the solution, you want to integrate some other functionalities or explore of the features, make sure to send us a message at support@plauti.com. If you have any questions for me specifically, I think my LinkedIn is on stage, Nico Miedema. You can add me there, send me any questions, send anyone in the team any questions, and we're here to help. Thanks everyone for joining the live LinkedIn webinar. Once again, we appreciate you being here. Thanks for everything. And now let's go cheer on the soccer team, on the national team. It's the Euros here, so it's a big tournament. Let's hope we can get far. Thanks everyone.